So welcome to another edition of LO Lowdown. And today I've got a great guest all the way from Kirkland, Washington, Allie Lord. How you doing, Allie?
I'm good. And you? How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for taking the time. And we're on, just a great kick. I actually did 3 of these calls already today, so I'm super pumped up. And we've just got such phenomenal people here at Caliber. It's just so much fun to chat with everybody.
Oh, absolutely. We are lucky. We're surrounded by greatness every day. So how fun for you.
All right. Well, now today is your turn. You're on the spotlight. So why don't we start at the very beginning? And that is, how did you get into the mortgage industry? How did you get started?
No, so my story is, poor Kirkland has heard this so many times over, so they're going to be annoyed if they're listening to this. I was actually right out of high school, and my background is I was a competitive jump roper. So take double Dutch and add gymnastics or endurance to it. And from the age of 3, all the way into my 20s, I traveled the world jump roping. And my mother-in-law was working at a mortgage company, and she knew I was going to the University of Washington. And she said, you need a real world job. Like, you've only ever turned double Dutch ropes before. Like, let's get you into an office setting. And she's my mother-in-law now. She was my boyfriend's mom at the time. So let's just, I guess, go back.
You weren't married at 17?
I wasn't married. I've known her since I was 12. So she's always been like my mother-in-law to me. And she got me in an office, and I was working as the receptionist, and all 4 years going through school, I was the receptionist and then a loan officer assistant. And I realized I actually like this better than becoming an elementary PE teacher. So I stayed in the industry, continued assisting, became a loan officer, then had this opportunity to produce and be a sales manager in the Kirkland office, and then was able to take over the branch. And what is funny is the office that I'm sitting in now is the office pretty much I've only ever worked at. So we were Cobalt and then became Caliber. So that's my story.
Wow, that's fantastic. So there's so many different things there, but what's really cool is I'm sure you share that story with all the new, if you hire a PA or a BA or whatnot in the office, right? To stand there and go, you too, this is how we started.
Like every receptionist we've had come through the doors, I'm like, I sat in that chair. I answered that phone. And if you want to have growth in this industry, there's no better company and there's no better business to allow you. Truly, the sky's the limit.
Yeah. And then I'm sure there's also a lot of you go, no, let me show you how this is really done.
Let me answer that phone. I can do this. I think it's done like this.
So, I think a lot of people, Kirkland is in and of itself a mortgage company. Let's start with there. And I'm not sure everyone understands just how, big this really is. So can you give us an idea, just kind of frame up number of team members? I mean, without a doubt, number one, and just for the team, so Allie can come into it, is Kirkland's our largest branch, in both total volume in terms of units, and has continued to be that for a number of years. And I'm certain 21, Allie's not going to let anyone take that crown. But in any case, just give a kind of high level of what Kirkland, the machine, looks like.
Absolutely. So it's been a really fun journey just to watch, because the Kirkland branch has always sat at this number 1 spot. And I was always feeling so blessed and fortunate to be sitting in that office. If it was from the receptionist to a loan officer, or so be it. And so when I took it over, the office had about 70 people that were reporting to it. And we had a gentleman that was the owner of Cobalt that I replaced. And so I had really big shoes to fill. And going into it now, we fast forward a few years that I've been in this space. My roster reports, we have 154 people that report to the Kirkland branch. Out of that, 42 of them are loan officers, producing loan officers. So that's processors and assistants that make up the delta that's there. We closed in 2020, 2.8 billion in volume, helping over 6,300 families. This year we will do that, if not more. So it's incredible. It's a true machine. And I always I look at it and I'm in awe. Every day I wake up. So yesterday morning, September 1st, I woke up and I am online. Michelle Palmer and I are both online, and we're like 6 a.m. Like, what are the numbers? What did these people do again? And it's like, I have yet to wake up on the first of the month and not be in awe.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
amazing.
It is. And I mean, what also, right, the other side of that is just the market dominance, right? The share, I mean, that side of it, when you go into, Kirkland, for those of you who aren't familiar, it's a city, a decent sized city outside of Seattle. Wonderful little place if you have not been, but the beauty of that is just the branding and how well known you are in that community.
It is. I will say that the loan officers in Washington State, because I will say Washington State, Caliber is the #1 lender in Washington State. And when you look at each county broken down, we'll talk about King County. We have the Tri-County area, which is Pierce, Snohomish, and King being the largest, where Seattle falls in. We don't just take the #1 spot, but we crush the next #2. So we've been sitting at about 12.5% market share in King County, where the second as well as Fargo, and they're sitting about 6% market share.
Yeah.
So it's like unreal, but we also take pride in that, and we take it very serious.
Mm-hmm.
And all of the management team around us, our regional managers, divisional manager, our loan officers, we will look at like who's being hired and who's coming in and making sure they're playing at that elite level. It's so important for our reputation.
Yeah.
That's what got us there.
Without a doubt. I mean, there are many areas where people can become #1 share, right? The question is sustainability, right? And I think that's really important that you focus on that. So let me ask you a couple, so obviously with over 40 loan officers and just your knowledge, and it's all different skill levels. You have some of the best in the industry, and then you have others that are just getting started, right, as we go. Is there, 1 or 2 traits that, as you've led these loan officers, like you look and you're like, yep, if I see this and this, I can guarantee success? Are there a couple of those traits?
Absolutely. Coachable. Like #1, you have to be coachable. And that means that you don't have to be #1. You don't have to say, I want to be Dan Peck and close 300 million this year. But you have to be willing to take critique and structure and be coachable. And #2 is culture. You have to believe in the culture. And I will tell you, in hiring, so when I took over the branch and we were able to almost double the size of the branch, when I would look to hire someone, I never had someone that I was seeking out. It was, they were coming to us and they were saying, I wanted to be part of that. When they tell me they want to be part of this, then it's the right fit. And it sounds strange, but we believe in our culture so much in the Kirkland office, and every single person is coachable, believes in the culture. And then you're going to have this well-oiled machine where that's how we keep dominating over and over and over and having the growth that we're having.
Yeah. Wow. I would imagine just with you do a lot of recruiting and so, that's good, really good feedback, because it's, and trying, again, it'd be one thing if you had, 40 loan officers who were all doing 5 to 10 million a month, right? Or a year, excuse me. You've got 40 and high powered, high octane, loan officers and man, how do you manage all those personalities? How does that, is there any tips for those managers out there as they're trying to figure out how to, keep everybody and keep the harmony?
Absolutely. So I'm a huge podcast person. So I listen to podcasts all the time. I think I probably sent you a podcast on occasion. Yeah. Listen to this, it's so good. But talking about just leadership, and leading by example is #1. Like, just as a leader, I better be able to roll my sleeves up and answer the phone at the front desk. Mm-hmm. Just as much as I am doing anything else, working through an escalation or a pricing exception or coaching our LOs. But what it really comes down to it is I lead by how I want to be led. And I want to feel that I'm important, right? Like, everyone wants to feel important. Yeah. And so my biggest focus is going, if it is a PA in our office, a processor, if we have a guy that comes in and helps us with our plants on occasion, like just to make sure they grow. So, because we're not always there. And so no matter who it is, I treat every single person the same. I know who their family is. I know who their kids are. I know what they like to do for fun, because they are not just a number to me. They're part of my family, and they get sick of hearing me say the Kirkland family. That's how I reference everyone, as you're part of the family. Welcome to the family, because every single person feels like an extension of my family. I spend more time with them than I do my family. So when I'm leading these people, I have to lead by example and be a good leader. But most important is that I'm leading them how I want to be led, and everyone wants to feel important, and you make sure that you're treating them just as important as they are.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's really, a lot of things in our business, right? It's a very complex business, but when you really get down to what it takes to be successful, it's those same lessons that we could learn from our parents or from our grandparents and anything else. And it doesn't make it easy to deploy, but it is amazing how simple this can be.
It is.
So when we think about, the mortgage, obviously you've seen a lot. As you start to think and obviously chat with your family, your mortgage family, what do you see on the horizon for the industry that you think Caliber, me specifically, should be focused on to make sure that we can continue to serve our customer, which is your family members, our loan officers? What do you think we should have our eyes on as we see some of these trends changing?
Absolutely. What I'm going to say is probably not what you're expecting me to say. And I think the beauty first of Caliber is so forward thinking. And with James, you listen. Like, I have never seen a leader that listens so much. And then not only do you listen, you implement really quickly. So number one, anyone that's listening to this, the person that implements the quickest is the person that wins.
Yeah.
So you've mastered that. Good job there.
But going things I'm behind on, but yes, thank you though.
No, I think you do a fantastic job. But when I look at the future, I really think the average age of a loan officer is about 56 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So the demographic of loan officers, we have a large portion of the industry that will retire. They're going to retire as soon as rates come up and the market shifts. Mm-hmm. They're going to peace out. I've already been through this downturn market. I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
We need to be really proactive, and we already have been, but such as Cal, you are bringing in the next generation to be able to take over books of business of people that are exiting the industry, as well as people might not be taking, or other companies might not be as proactive as us. So there will be a large market share that's still out there, because people still have to buy homes. Right. They actually still have to refinance if there's a divorce situation or what might happen. Mortgages will still happen, but we have to make sure that we have the right people that are there to handle that book of business. So that's number one, that I think that we have to be really, really cognizant of, just like looking into. The next thing is just different. We've become a commodity. Getting a 30-year fixed mortgage, we've completely become a commodity. And so how can we differentiate ourselves? And it's going to be non-QM. That's huge. So having the new merger with New Res, to me, in talking with our people, I said, you can't go anywhere else and get what we're about to get. And with the changing tides, and who knows when this will be, if it's a year from now or 2 years from now, being with a company that will do non-QM, we need it desperately. So I think being ready, that we're already a commodity. Very well for what we do, for a very simple mortgage. So diversifying your business to mortgages that are maybe a little bit trickier, your FHA. QM. So those are the two things I see coming.
No, I think those are great things. I think, what's interesting about your first comment is everybody's, says, oh, the millennial who's now buying house, right? 62% of our purchases last year were millennials in Caliber retail, higher than the industry.
Yeah.
And so not only are the millennials buying, but they're not doing it like everyone said, which was they're going to do everything online and never going to need to speak with anybody. They're using realtors at a higher level, which is great for our business.
Yeah.
However, to your exact point, if we don't think ahead and make sure that we have plans to help our tremendous,
Yes.
loan officers transition their business, that's a challenge. I'm glad you brought that up, because I do think, to the degree that we can help those individuals bring on team members and transition, it's going to be a big strategy. And then to your point, the diversification, no matter what we do, we are a commodity. So we have to stay back and focus on it's our service and what we deliver to our customers, our loan officer customers, so that they can deliver to their customers. But then whether that's product diversity, it's just those other value pieces that round you out so that you can service. So that's really good. So when you see, so the last, there's going to be a lot, not the last thing I'll ask you, but there's a lot of people that be watching this. And as a loan officer, and say, look, Allie, this is great. You run a great team, big group, and I'm getting started. Maybe this is the loan officer doing $1 million a month in purchase, trying to get to 10 million a month in purchase. What's the one thing you do to encourage? Tell them to encourage? What should they just stay focused on and do as they build their business?
So I was told this and I didn't follow it. And then now I look back and go, why didn't I listen? Right. So now if someone will just listen to me, because I was given the same piece of advice. If you work really hard for 2 years, you just grind for 2 years, your entire business is set. You actually don't really have to work hard after that, because you've built your relationships, you've built your clientele, you've built your database, you've mastered the business, but you have to grind for 2 years straight. And so I officially became a loan officer in 2007. And I was told that in 2007. And it took me getting pregnant with our first, we have 3 kids. So with our first, and I was really tired then. And I'm like, how am I going to have a kid and be a mom and business? And I decided with our first kid, I should have taken that advice. And I worked really, really hard in 12 and 13. And it set my whole business, where when Chris came in and was able to take over our book of business and I can go into management. Yeah. It was set.
Wow. I think it's great advice. I forget there's a book or, but like 10,000 hours or some similar philosophy. And I think that makes a ton of that. Like the great thing is you can sit here and go, well, yeah, of course. It's how many people will listen, to your point.
It is. It's how many people will actually listen. And this business is so easy. People will get mad that I say this, but it really is. It's easy. And if you ask yourself honestly, how many hours of sales are you doing a day? Mm-hmm. Proactively making an outgoing phone call, not to talk about a loan or give a loan status update. That is not proactively doing sales, but you really only have to do 5 a week to have the most beautiful business. 5 hours a week of outgoing sales, of solid pounding phone calls. Wow. And you will have a beautiful business. But we become lazy and we become transactional and we don't do it. So grind for 2 years straight. And that means 5 hours solid a week of outgoing sales calls.
Wow. That's great advice. I think that's probably, I guarantee you our host here, Desiree, is writing that down as, we pulled these little nuggets out of there. So you run, one of the things that fascinates me about the Kirkland mortgage family is you've got some of these top producers. They have some very, cool setups on their teams. When I say that in terms of how they structure and flow and move, and that's one of the things I think Caliber does really well, is support teams in terms of allowing team branding and the team setup. And obviously that can be complex from an administrative, but in terms of allowing that, terrific loan officer to also spread their wings a little bit as a leader and grow that team. Is there anything that like a best practice or two, when you think of others trying to build out a team, that you might share from what you've seen on the great teams in Kirkland?
So the one, when I look at what's my job description, and I write out job descriptions, I annoy our sales managers with them regularly, and we have checklists. But when I look at it, I coach our loan officers. That is one of my number one job descriptions, is to provide coaching for all of our loan officers. And that goes into team structure. So when you take all 42 of our LOs, every single one of them has a different team structure. I don't believe anyone fits in a box. No team fits in a box, because our business does not fit in a box. And so it's just different. So being able to really sit down and identify what everyone needs. We have different flows, right? So you have your file flow, and we really break down what the loan officer's strength is. So I've followed, it's called a genius grid, and where you can spend, if you look at 4 boxes, and your genius zone is where you come out of your 1 hour meeting or your 1 hour a day, and you're so jazzed, you're like, I can conquer the world. Our LOs should be sitting in that genius zone 90% of the time.
Wow. Wow.
And if what that basically does is we analyze their week, like take all your entire week, color coded, and any time that you're in green, that's your genius zone. That's where you should be spending all your time. And then you have the first zone is red, like that's awful. You come out of a meeting, it's terrible. Then it goes to yellow, then it goes to blue. Well, the goal is to be able to put LO in genius zone and take all that activity that does not get them in their genius zone, and we start surrounding them with support team. So some LOs, their genius zone is the face-to-face meetings with the clients. Some are sales calls, some are working in H2O. Then what that means is when we start stacking their team members, it's based off all of the things they pretty much don't like doing or they're terrible at. So that's how the teams are structured a lot of times, is based off that type of concept. But if you want a metrics, loan officers should be able to close 5 to 6 loans on their own. Chris Washburn is not going to agree with me, and he runs a beautiful business. So you should probably take advice from him too.
Yeah.
But after that, I'm a firm believer for every assistant that you hire will get you 4 more loans a month. So if you're sitting at 5 to 6, you go hire your first assistant. Yeah. And then once you hire that next assistant, within 3 months, you'll gain 4 more loans a month. So now you're sitting at 9 to 10 loans a month. Well, now if you want growth, you start stacking them and you start hiring. And I'll say we have Kalisa Davies. She ran a $160 million a year business with just 1 assistant. So not everyone functions like this, but her genius zone activity is truly a technical loan officer. So she doesn't need all the sales support.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I've not heard it. I'm going to have to follow up on that book, because I've not heard it explained that way. But I think, too many people go at it and go, okay, well, I'm going to build a team, I'm going to hire a PA, or I'm going to hire TLC or whatever, when you're missing the point, because it's where is that originator in their genius zone? I love that. And being able to have them focus and then build around, because otherwise you're just, what works for, Dan Peck or Chris Washburn or anybody, it won't work for everybody, right? Yeah. Because what you're saying is pull it up a level. Let's assess where someone's really strong, learn that, and then, build scaffolding around them, if you will, so that they can focus on those genius zones. And I think it's great. I'm going to talk to Russ about getting me all the help so I could stay at my.
If you did it and we had you doing your highest and best,
that's right. All right, there'd be everything would get done faster. No, I think that's great. I've got to follow up with you on that. Yeah. Okay, now we're on to the really, really hard questions. And so the first one, for those of you not aware, Allie does a variety of really fun stuff. One of recently was spending a weekend essentially climbing a mountain equivalent to the size of Mount Everest. And so, imagine that, right? Climbing. So you can basically say you've climbed Mount Everest. Yes. You just had to do it 10 times on a smaller mountain. But that's a big, huge accomplishment. And so that's a hobby outside of work. But is there another hobby outside of work that you kind of de-stress or helps you stay focused?
Absolutely. So you're wondering why I keep drinking water over here. My lungs are still burning from this weekend because there was so much smoke in the air. If you have not heard of 29029 Everesting, you guys, like life-changing. I did it with 2 from the Kirkland, Kara, to a loan officer and her PA, and my husband. It was incredible. But, Chris and I, we've been together since we were 12. So my husband's Chris. And so we grew up together and we have 3 amazing kids. And I will tell you, I don't function in life without him. So like I invest a lot in my relationship with my husband. So I date my husband. We make sure we go on a date one time a week. We actually have a standing date and it's Fridays at 3:00 and it's in my calendar and people are like, Allie, they can see what your Outlook says and it's a date with your husband. But I think it's so important and it makes me a better person. But we bought in COVID a pear orchard. And it was my kind of COVID craze. I think I couldn't control anything, but I could control buying real estate. I have no idea. So we bought this pear orchard, which is in like our wine country of Washington. And I am now a farmer. So I like watch documentaries on farming. I read books on farming. So there you go. That is my other outlet. And I think it's just amazing. I watch my 2-year-old run through the orchard and you have to like bend down under the trees and try to find him because he gets lost in there. And so it's like something we can do with our family. And
yes, no, I remember you first telling me that story and I'm going to wait for when I get those Harry and David at Christmas for
yes,
the Lord family pears wrapped in a glittery package.
yes,
So,
yes.
you know, that's awesome. Okay, so this is a big one. Everyone, you know, all the latest cool talk show people want to know, you know, great successful people, they must have an amazing morning routine. Is there any disciplines that you have in the morning that just supercharge your days?
It's funny that you asked this because this is the question that I ask everyone, like, tell me your morning routine. And I encourage our office probably monthly, like, what's your, like, when we were all like, everyone probably knows this is not my office. I'm in my bedroom. Like I have 3 kids. We only thought we'd have 2 when we built the house. So we don't have an office for me. And I said, you guys can't roll out of your bed and go log on your computer. Like, it's not healthy to do this. Your brain needs time to like do other things. So I'm a firm believer on morning routine. So I will wake up every morning to my 2-year-old usually yelling at me at about 5:30. So I don't get to wake up and do my gratitude journal and do all those things that I encourage you to do. I usually wake up with him. I get my coffee and I sit with him and I spend time with him. My 2 olders will then come up about 6:30. But I don't sit here and peruse anything on my phone that isn't good for my brain.
Yeah.
So do I make it fun? Heck yes, I'm on Pinterest. And when I'm on Pinterest, I'm looking at my favorite quotes. And who I follow on Instagram is going to be people that inspire me to be better. So I'm not following maybe a Kim Kardashian or someone like that. I'm following an Ed Milet or a Jesse Itzler. So I can get in good content to make me better. So I will look on my phone, I'll drink my coffee, and I always will get a workout in with my 2-year-old in a stroller running down the Kirkland Boulevard. So you will always see me doing that without fail every single morning.
Now, the big question is going to be as the 2-year-old gets out of the stroller and you're going to have to learn to run without that.
I know.
The whole gait is going to change again.
It will. I'll become fast is what will happen.
Exactly. Well, Allie, I thoroughly enjoyed this. And as the leader of the Kirkland family, we thank you. You are what makes this company great. And I knew we were going to have a great discussion. What I didn't know is I was going to walk away with some homework and a lot of learnings on it myself. And so I've got a bunch of things. And so I appreciate, on behalf of everybody in the company, as they watch this, we're going to have some great things to learn. But most importantly, the fact that you take the time to do this, help others, means a ton to me, means a ton to the company. And we're just so thankful to have you on the leadership team and all that you've done. So thank you very much on behalf of everybody.
No, it's an honor. Thank you very much.
You bet.
Thank you for tuning in to the Home Connection podcast from Caliber Home Loans. Please see the show notes for links to topics discussed in this episode and be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.